live at your edge. That's something that I've been implementing in the past couple of days, because I've realized that, I can get so lazy and so ignorant of and naive, thinking that I have so much time to be able to do all these things, and that, I can just put it on for later, and get caught in these states of overthinking and kind of anxiety. And just oh, what should I be doing? What should I do? What do I actually love? What is my purpose? What should I actually be doing? And although thinking is a part of that, we still have to act, because I found myself just stuck indoors, just overthinking, and it happens a lot. In my periods where I feel worse, I just end up in a constant state of overthinking and overwhelm. And yeah, yesterday I went out of my comfort zone a bit more. I went outside. I talked to a bit more people. I went out and did things, by myself, and I felt the anxiety of that. I felt a bit stressed being out there, but then it was I knew I could manage it, but it felt a bit stressful to do it, but I did it anyway, and I felt better for it. And it made me realize that you can only think so much. You can only, you have to have experience. It doesn't matter what you think you desire, because there's a big difference between desire and liking something. And the difference between desire, liking something from afar, and actually liking and enjoying it is experience. Anyway, I've got to work it out now. I thought I'd just kind of say what I've learned, and then just work out and see how this goes. The best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is now. Another quote like that I just thought of was, there's never a good time to have a baby. And think sometimes I find that I wait for the perfect time for something rather than just starting and doing it and figuring out along the way, which is important because I feel like I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking and analysing, where I just need to act and gain experience. I also remembered when I first started recording these videos, I wanted it to try and be something different. I wanted it to be showcasing, you know, me doing things, showing, you know, because you can talk so much, but showing people is so much more different and more powerful, I think. also that I think as humans, naturally tend to, go for what's easiest, what's most comfortable. And in our times, I think it's more important that, we show some self-control and discipline, because, those things that are easier and more comfortable, whether that's foods, video games, movies, adult content, and that, it gives us a lot of pleasure in the moment, but then afterwards there's a dip down, the dopamine spikes when we do it, and then it dips below baseline, and then we feel worse. And it's in these hard things that make your dopamine almost go down and then up, that kind of bring us a better sense of well-being. We live in quite like a soft, comfortable society. Well, I find that I have, and the one that I've grown up in has been quite soft and easy. And it's those times where I've pushed myself a bit more, gone out of my comfort zone a little bit, even though I haven't felt like it, and it's not always enjoyable, I definitely feel more satisfied and fulfilled afterwards. And I think that's because as humans we like to see progress and growth. And like the natural state of the world is entropy. Everything will slowly degrade over time if you don't care for it, The gardens will run wild, whether that's a literal garden, or the garden that's in your mind. Thorns everywhere, messy and unkempt, weeds growing everywhere. I think it's important to listen to the signals of our body, not really the mind, because the mind will tell us to give up a lot more easily, but to kind of listen to those feelings and those inclinations where you feel, a bit better. Like after working out, you feel a general satisfaction, and as that kind of knocks on and you start seeing progress, whether that's, well, for me, that's for like growing more muscle, and that starts to like, it's a hard feeling to describe, seeing a change. And if you don't know, I can't explain it to you. I think I need to do a lot more flies and like that sort of cross chest work, because I feel like the outer fleshy part of my chest is quite good, but then the inside is really lacking. could be talking and instructing like all these other people online, on social media, on YouTube and that sort of thing, you know, these inspirational quotes, these kind of how to do things, and, you know, trying to give self-help advice, you know, how to live, how to deal with fear and those sorts of things. But honestly, I think it's also quite a personal kind of experience, because, and very subjective, because, you know, everyone has different sort of circumstances. Nobody's had quite the same upbringing, and although you can kind of relate to these stories, like I've related to parts of them, and parts of it have definitely helped, I think what's important is what I found important for me is to kind of take parts from people that have inspired me, people that I've been drawn to, kind of take those parts and try and implement it into my life. And, you know, if you're not willing to listen, if you're not open to these changes, then no amount of knowledge or information is going to reach you. And then if you're not willing to implement it either, then there's no point to watching YouTube, there's no point to consuming all this knowledge, because, you know, you don't really want to grow, you don't want to change. And I see so many people like that, and I don't mean to talk down on them, because they've all had their own circumstances and that, but we can't exactly blame people for choosing the easier things, succumbing to these kind of things, because it's kind of being pushed by society. You know, it's really accessible to drink a lot of alcohol, and it's socially accepted. You know, people get together and they drink all the time, like, oh, you want to come over and have a beer, and that. It's kind of all accepted, and I guess I've just realised that's definitely not what I want. And it's not the kind of people that I want to be talking to or spending my time with. And that almost shocks me, because I find myself naturally kind of like a compassionate kind of person, you know? Like, I don't like hating on other people, but if it's not doing them any good in the long term, then are you really helping them, or are you just being nice in the short term, pretending you're nice when actually you're not? You don't have the ball to say, hey, you're actually like fucking up your life. And that may seem rude in the moment, but it's being honest, it's being true. And I mean, it's easy for me to say this to the camera, but to do this in person is a whole different thing. You know, when consequences aren't immediate, you know, when they're not in front of our faces, you know, when I'm not actually talking to someone and I'm not suffering the consequences of it. You know, if you're not suffering the consequences of alcohol straight away, you're getting the benefit of it, or you're not suffering from the downfall of video games, you know, spending a lot of time in video games, you're getting the pleasure immediately. If you don't get the reward, if you get the reward earlier, then people are more likely to do it, you know, and they're less likely to see the consequences and like actually realize it, because it's not immediate. So I think it's definitely important to work on being your best self and identifying what that is and working towards that. And, you know, it's easy to succumb to all these things, but what's actually going to be best for you? And that's a part of living at your edge. Not being extreme and going too far that you burn out, but not being comfortable on your chair. It's kind of when you're at the edge of your chair and you're kind of at the balance and you see the edge of the cliff and you feel the fear, but you do it anyway, and then you get used to it. And then that edge grows further out and you have to go with it. so much more on my shoulders. Why do people get stuck in the same circumstances, in the same situations? I think because it's just comfortable enough, and that they don't realise that pain or difficulty quite yet. You know, it hasn't settled in, it's there, but it's like their situation is just okay enough that they don't really want to do anything about it. And if they were to do something about it, then they'd have to give up those things that are making it just okay to live. And then they'll have to feel the reality setting in, you know. Like the other day, I did something quite extreme. I think I went a little bit too far. I just didn't do anything. I didn't read, I didn't have anything to stimulate my mind. I just sat there and did like nothing for a couple hours, you know. I did it a couple hours before bed, and the next day after I came back from work, I did it for a couple hours then. And you know, even at work the next day after I hadn't been doing anything during the work, I felt all these negative emotions and all this like shit, and I was like, oh my god, like I feel so terrible, I feel so bad. And that was because I was doing these things, but I got caught in this cycle of overthinking and trying to consume like this content on YouTube or all this information and reading these books to try and, you know, give me clarity on what I wanted to do with my life and like find out who I was. And I think you can only think so far, you can only learn so far. You've got to actually implement that and learn through experience by, like, as I keep continuing to say, to live at your edge. You know, it's through this working out and that you kind of realize that I realize that my mind is actually quite weak, and I give up quite easily, and then I look for a distraction. I look for something to pacify me almost, and it's kind of an embarrassing thing to say, you know, because I'm someone who sees myself, you know, I've set high standards for myself, and yet sometimes I only impose them on myself when it's convenient, or when I feel like I need to compensate for doing the bad things. And you know, I think we just got to try and regulate that. And it's like this balance, you know, at the edge, you know, literally that, then at the edge of the balance, balancing at the edge. You know, because we could be safe standing back, getting a helicopter or driving up to the top of the mountain and seeing the view, or we could be walking up that mountain and then seeing the view. But then being extreme would be like, you know, trying to jump down the cliff or whatever, you know, like, why would you do something so extreme like that? Anyway, that kind of turned somewhere I didn't mean it to. Check that I'm still recording. Oh shit, half hour already. I should probably cut it off now. Just gotta finish this drum set. I'm worried that last time I had too much video and it didn't save. And then my phone went really buggy because it was all full. Okay, I'm just about done, but I hope to continue to express myself in a better manner, to articulate myself a little bit more, you know, kind of experiment with my ideas and who I am and learn through these sorts of things, and then like showcase it, you know, like doing this workout while also talking, because I'm someone who doesn't often talk a lot, and I found that when I was trying to make these videos where I was just talking, it didn't come out naturally, it didn't feel like me. Whereas this doing stuff, you know, I think it brings out, you know, a bit more who you are, and it brings out these kind of deeper thoughts when you're kind of challenging yourself, you know. So anyway, I'm Malin, and that was this video.